guys, what's up? This is Steve Huff at SteveHuffPhoto.com, and I'm here today with the Sony A7 and the Sony A7R and a sea of rangefinder lenses that I've been testing on these two guys. Now, I did a video about an hour ago. I went to load it in the computer, and for some reason it cut off after a minute, and I did 12 minutes, so I'm having to redo this. Basically, this video is going to be a quick look at the two cameras up close and personal. I've been using these for 4 days here in Nashville with Sony event, almost 12 to 14 hours a day sometimes, shooting these cameras and then barely having any time to edit or look at photos. But I've been managing. Today I took the morning off to stay here in this hotel so I can do this video, and I'm running out of time simply because I'm having to redo it. But I wanted to give the intro here and say that these two cameras from Sony are the world's first mirrorless full-frame cameras, interchangeable lens cameras, besides the Leica M. It's the world's first autofocus mirrorless full-frame interchangeable lens cameras. These have been anticipated and waited for the last year and a half, and it's been rumored and all kinds of stuff talked about it. People have been waiting for the full-frame Sony, and I remember people saying, it's going to kick Leica's ass, Leica's going to go down, and blah, blah, blah. Well, the bottom line is Leica is still going to be around. These do not replace a Leica M, though I have to say, using lenses like the Zeiss 35 f2 or the Zeiss 50 f2 or the Voigtlander 35 1.2, use those lenses, and I've been getting nicer results out of those than I have been on the Leica M. Even the Leica 50 Summilux spherical, I'm liking the output of the A7 even better than what I'm getting out of the Leica M for some reason. I think it's a sensor thing. I loved them on the M9, but on the M, the 50 Lux is a little bit soft, wide open. It's not as crisp. On these, you get that crispness back and that absolute sharpness. Either one of them. So a lot of people ask me, which one should I get? Well, the A7 is the lower megapixel version, 24 megapixel, and it does have an AA filter. It has phase detect and contrast detect autofocus. It's a little bit better at high ISO, but a little bit, not too much. This does not have an AA filter, 36 megapixel resolution, so this is a resolution monster. Here's the thing though, wide angle, ultra wide angle Leica lenses, if you're a Leica shooter, a lot of people who go to my site are, and they've been interested, even though everybody's interested in these Sony lenses as well. Right here I have the 35 f2.8, and right here is the 55 1.8. On each camera. You can see them. They're not heavy lenses. They're actually lightweight lenses, especially when you're comparing them to things like this Voigtlander 35 1.2. But anyway, if you're going to use ultra-wide Leica lenses, there are people who have a Leica and want a backup, or people who can't afford a Leica but have Leica lenses. If you have 12mm, 15mm, 18mm, 16mm, 21mm, get the A7 if you want to get one of these cameras, because you're going to have minimal issues. You will get color fringing and magenta edges on the 7R with those lenses. If you're mainly a 35mm and up shooter, go with either one. The lenses work equally well. The 35 1.2 works great on this, works great on this. The 50 f2 works great on this, works great on this. The 50 Summilux, etc. The same deal. It's only the ultra wide. So if you're going to shoot ultra wide lenses, you can get away almost with a 28 on the 7, not so much on the 7R. But if you're going to go with one of these for sure, and you're going to shoot some wide-angle Leica M-mount style lenses, go for the 7. If you want ultimate resolution, you're going to use the Sony lenses, or you're going to use 35 and up Leica M-mount or converted, go with the 7R, if that's what you want. It's up to you, personal preference. But everybody's been asking me which one to get. Get whichever one fills your needs. They're both fantastic. I've been shooting both of them side by side on the streets in Nashville, all over the place. They feel exactly the same in the hand. I wouldn't be able to tell the difference if I was blindfolded which one I was holding. The 7 has a plastic dial, but it doesn't feel like plastic. The 7R has a metal dial, and the only difference here is the metal one's a little shinier, and it looks like metal where the other one looks like plastic. But that's really about it. EVF is the same. A lot of early reports have been talking about how the focus peaking is not working, and that's nonsense. The focus peaking works perfectly fine, and I have evidence and proof of that. Every image, not every, 80-90% of images that I've been posting in the last few days on SteveHuffPhoto.com have been manual focus lenses. Whoa, see? And to do that, I used focus peaking. But focus peaking is misunderstood by a lot of people. Some people who've been using autofocus or DSLRs or all this other stuff, they really don't know how to use focus peaking. I'm not saying that to say something against somebody, but a lot of people do not know how to properly use focus peaking. Focus peaking is meant to be an aid, not a solution. It's an aid to manually focus, but you also have to use your little eyeball and look through that EVF, and the good news is the EVF is clear and big. It's the same one as on the A99. While not as nice as the one on the Olympus E-M1, it's still fantastic. It's the second best EVF on the market. So focus peaking, if you're shooting a lens like wide open, a 51.4, and you look at that focus peaking, you're trying to get the eyelash or eye in focus, and then you're going to see it's not going to critically focus on that little piece of eyelash. You have to eyeball it as well and see if that is in focus, and it's not that hard to do. I've gotten a lot of practice, so that's why I don't have a problem with it, I guess. But focus peaking is not a solution, it's an aid. Just remember that. Also, people have been complaining about exposure. I haven't had an issue with exposure. Again, all the images I've been posting are JPEGs. I haven't done any RAWs yet, so I haven't been able to change exposure after the fact. And you can see that my photos are not overexposed. There's a couple that were underexposed when I used one certain lens. I don't remember which one, but it was a adapted lens, a Leica M-mount lens. The 55-1.8, I have had a couple shots that were overexposed, so I'm not going to say that that doesn't happen. So I think the people that were having that issue, maybe they were using the 55, because I did see a few shots that were. So when I said I didn't have that issue, I did with a few shots only with the 55-1.8. But they were easily, they weren't good shots anyway, but if they were, they would have been a little overexposed. So you might want to pay attention and dial down that exposure compensation. But also when you're shooting a scene, something like a leaf on a rock, and the light source is hitting the leaf and the rest of the rock is shady, you might want to use spot metering or center weighted metering. Metering is there for a reason. You choose it for the lighting situation. Overall, though, I found the usability of the Sony to be great. The menus are the alpha. I'll go over those in a minute. Alpha menus, there are no NEX menus on here. No matter what people tell you, this does not have the NEX menu system, nor can you revert to the NEX menu system. It's not there. It has a simplified box menu, which takes you to the normal menu. But the alpha menu is simple, and once you set it up to your liking, meaning customize all the buttons, you don't have to mess with it anymore. You have your movie button over here. You have all kinds of cool buttons that are customizable. Display, white balance, you could set one of these up to ISO. It's all customizable. You have your dial here, your mode dial on top. You have your exposure compensation dial here, your power button. You have a control dial here, a custom one button here, which I have for focus peaking. You have another dial back here, magnify, and more programmable buttons, your menu buttons over here. The LCD is a swivel, so it swivels out if you want to shoot that way, and many people do. You have your SD card here, which goes in that way instead of the normal by the battery kind of way. So it goes in, you push it in, and voila. Some people wanted to see the battery compartment. There it is. It feels solid. It feels more solid than the NEX battery doors. And you have the NEX battery, of course, that goes in, and I just put it in backwards. So the battery door feels more solid. The camera body is splash proof, weatherproof, whatever, rain proof, so you could take it out if it's not raining too hard, I'd imagine, and not have to worry about it. So Sony tried to revolutionize the industry by being the world's first full-frame mirrorless autofocus camera, and they have succeeded. It is indeed revolutionary. Like I said, I've been really enjoying shooting those Leica mount lenses on these bodies. I'm a 35-50 millimeter guy, so those lenses work great on these bodies, but it is not a Leica replacement because it's not a rangefinder. So those who like to shoot rangefinders, those who want to use their Leica tri-Elmars, wide-angle tri-Elmars, and 24 and 21s, you're best off with your Leica if you want the ultimate quality, because these will give you little problems on the edges. So that's about it in this part of the video. Next part of the video, I'm going to go over the menu system with you and show you the menu system of the A7 series, and then I'm possibly going to have a video sample up as well. So take a look at that and hope you enjoy it. Okay, so I'm going to test the shutter sound right here. Now it's on the table, so I'm going to lift it up. There's noise outside too, it's not the shutter. So that's what the A7R sounds like. So I'm going to do a couple more, and then I'm going to bring in the A7. Okay, so let's turn on the A7 and see. So now we're going to try the A7. Let's do the same thing. And now this one. So that's the shutter sounds between the two, the A7R and the A7. The A7 is a little quieter, and that's just how it is. I asked why that was, and they said it was the way the sensor was designed in the A7R. So you get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. That's what my mom always said. So if you want the A7R, you have to learn to live with that shutter sound. Same with the A7. Now, with that said, I've shot these on the street with no problem. Nobody even paid attention to me. So that whole thing with you can't have a loud shutter when you're shooting street, I think that's nonsense. There's people out there shooting street with a Nikon D4, and that's way more obtrusive than a loud shutter. Cameras make shutter sounds. So if you're in a church doing a wedding that's not supposed to make any noise, that could be a problem. But if you are just shooting on the street, not a problem. If you're shooting a model, it's actually an aid, because that tells the model when you fired the photo, so she knows when the next one's getting ready to come up. So there's pros and cons to the shutter sound. You either like it or you love it. I hated it at first, and I was like, well, why in God's name does this shutter sound so loud? But after 4 days of shooting the camera, you don't even notice it anymore. I mean, it's a camera. It's supposed to make shutters. It has a shutter sound, so it has a shutter. So the Sony build quality is fantastic. They feel good in the hand. They have the metal build construction. They're weatherproof, or weather sealed, I should say. So if you get a little rain on it, you're going to be fine. Like I said, the EVF is taken from the A99. So let's take a look at the menus. It's exactly like the RX1. It's just like the Alpha system menus. So you have the same thing here, your metering mode, your white balance, your HDR, which I have set to off, and you have creative style. Right now it's set on vivid because I was shooting some lights last night in the street, but you could change it to whatever you want. Let's go back to the menu. So, oh, I forgot a spot here. Image size, 24 megapixels on the A7. Aspect ratio, RAW and JPEG. File format for movies, AVCHD. Record setting for movies, drive mode, flash mode, red eye reduction, focus mode. Focus area, I've been using flexible spot, which gives you a pinpointed spot in the middle, which makes it a little more accurate to focus, in my opinion. Focus settings, you can go into focus settings, you can move your box around, whatever you need to do, like so. Magnify. AF illuminator, that's when you're in the dark, it will blow this blinding light towards your subject to illuminate them so the AF can work. Exposure compensation, which you can control up here anyway. You don't need to go into the menu. ISO, you can control one of the program one of these buttons to control ISO. I have it on auto. Metering mode, multi, you have your center and spot as well. White balance, the auto white balance is doing really good on these cameras. HDR, I turn off. Focus magnifier, which I said when using manual focus lenses, I have the button up here, the C1 button. If I press it, I have it set to magnify when using manual focus, but I've only used it once because I found I didn't need to use it. Long exposure noise reduction, high ISO noise reduction, I have it set to off. Smile face detect, soft skin effect, I never use any of those gimmicky modes. Auto slow shutter for movies, audio recording off for movies, wind noise, etc. So then you go into all your settings, zebra, manual focus assist, focus magnify time. When you hit the magnification, you can set it to 2 seconds, 5 seconds, or no limit. grid line off or on, audio level display when you're recording movies so you don't blow out the mics. There's all kinds of settings on here. Peaking level, high, I have the yellow color, live view display. So there's all release without lens. If you're going to put a Leica lens on here, you want to go to the gear menu, menu 3, release without lens, and enable it. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to fire away when you put a third-party lens on. So you have all these settings. On the 7, you have the front curtain shutter on, which makes the shutter quieter. Now, if I go back into that, if I can find the menu back again where I was, and I turn that off, it's going to sound just like the A7R with the double shutter sound. So it's always best to turn that off. But on the A7, you cannot turn that off, or you can't turn it on. You want it on the A7. Face registration, APS-C size capture. If you put a Sony E-mount lens, you have it set to auto, it'll automatically crop. You can also set it to off or on, but if you set it to off, you'll get heavy circular vignetting when you put a E-mount APS sensor lens on. You can do AF micro adjust if your lens is not focusing correctly, your autofocus lens. Function menu set, here's where you could set up all of your dials. And once you set these up the first time, you never have to go into the menus because all your dials here will control everything you need. Your Wi-Fi, you can send the Wi-Fi, it has Wi-Fi to your phone. It works really well. I was out shooting with Sony and I was sending them through Wi-Fi to my phone and posting to Facebook. Of course, these are direct out of camera JPEGs and everybody was moaning and groaning about the color because I used Vivid. But anyway, so Wi-Fi is cool to have. I will use it from time to time. So there's your play menu, and then there's your toolbox menu, which you could set your monitor brightness, viewfinder color temperature, audio signals, which I recommend setting to off. So you have all kinds of options in here, and the good thing is, like I said, once you set it up the first time, you don't have to do it again. So everything will be set up to your liking on the Sony A7R and A7. So that's my first look. This is not a review. I have not yet reviewed these. I've just taken a boatload of cool pictures with them, and like I said, with some of these M-mount rangefinder lenses, the quality is amazing, and actually, from what I've seen, I prefer the quality of these lenses like the 35-1.2 and the 35-f2 and the 50-f2 on the A7 and A7R over the Leica M. If you're shooting wide-angle lenses, Leica brand wide-angle lenses stick with Leica M, the Tri-Elmar, wide-angle Tri-Elmar, the 21s, the 24s, the 28s. You're not going to get as good quality on these as you get from your Leica M. So are these Leica M killers? Not really, because Leica M appeals to a different crowd. It appeals to those who want to shoot a rangefinder. It appeals to those who love rangefinders and just love Leica and like that whole style of shooting. It is indeed a whole different kind of style of shooting, and I love it as well. Then there's the people who want something of that caliber, but they don't want to spend $7,000 for a body. This is where these two guys come in. So you have full frame capabilities, autofocus, the capabilities to throw on manual focus lenses, hundreds of different lenses you can convert. You can convert Canon, you can convert Nikon, you can convert Leica, and so forth. Old lenses, screw mount lenses, all kinds of stuff. So that's what makes these versatile. Where Sony is lacking right now at launch is these are really the only two lenses available right now. The 35 and the 55 and the kit zoom. Kit zoom I really can't recommend, but I can recommend these two lenses. They go great with the camera, and for some that's all you'll need. Some people are 35 shooters, some people are 55 shooters, and what you see is what you get because it's full frame. The 55 has beautiful bokeh, beautiful sharpness. It's a great Zeiss design. The 35 actually has a nice shallow depth of field to it, even though it's f2.8, because we're dealing with full frame. So there you go. There's my first look at the Sony A7R and A7. I will be doing a full detailed review as soon as I get my hands on a full review sample for 3 weeks or so. And until then, keep an eye on SteveHuffPhoto.com. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And it's not the ideal conditions for me because I'm in this hotel room, but did the best I can with what I had. So thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, thanks for giving me thumbs up. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope you have a great day, and happy Halloween!